Chapter 52:17. Ling Xiao, in my opinion, the best time to go to the AO clan is when you have the confidence to defeat AO Junkwang. Bewitching's eyes were deep and serious. They were naturally AO Ling Xiao's backing. As long as AO Ling Xiao wanted to go back, they would definitely go with him. Not only them, but even Lin Taxing and the others had repeatedly emphasized before leaving that if he wanted to go to the AO clan, they must go with him. However, in his opinion, this was not a problem. The most important thing was that AO Ling Xiao could defeat AO Junkwang. Only in this way could he convince everyone, and it would be more justifiable for him to take back the AO clan. Hearing Bewitching's words, AO Ling Xiao quickly calmed down and understood what he meant. You're right. I must have the ability to defeat AO Junkwang. Thinking back, AO Junkwang had taken everything from him. Now, he had to take it back with his own hands. Of course, he needed the help of Bewitching and the others. More importantly, he had to defeat AO Junkwang fair and square. Only in this way would his retaking be meaningful. Otherwise, in the eyes of others, he was just relying on others and not having true strength. Ling Xiao, are you confident now? Xiren looked concerned. If it was in the past, it would not be a problem for AO Ling Xiao to defeat AO Junkwang. However, due to the regression of his strength, AO Ling Xiao had been working hard on his cultivation. He did not know if he could catch up. AO Ling Xiao's eyes dimmed. There is still a gap, but I will catch up soon. Previously, in the Immortal Cloud Secret Realm, he had some understanding of AO Junkwang's strength. Currently, there is still a gap between them, but the gap was not big. As long as he worked hard for a few more days, he would definitely catch up. In the past, I was not confident that I could catch up in a short time. However, after taking the Immortal Elixir, my aptitude has been improved. Now my cultivation speed is much faster than before. That's true. Xiren also chuckled. The Immortal Elixir is indeed a first-class treasure. My cultivation speed is much faster than before. When Xiren then looked at Bewitching, now I finally understand why you were able to break through so quickly. The effects of the Heavenly Mandate body must be even better than the Immortal Spirit pills. It's really enviable. Bewitching smiled faintly and didn't say anything. Shangguan Ying then said, So, Ling Xiao still can't return to the AO clan for the time being? AO Ling Xiao nodded slightly. I'm afraid I'll have to go into seclusion for a while. Hong Zhuang, do you have to go to the Bailey family? Shangguan Ying's eyes flickered with curiosity. That Nangong Xiaolong probably can't wait to see Miss Shi right now, right? I think so. Bailey Hong Zhuang smiled faintly. I heard that the Nangong family has invited many doctors to help, but none of them have any effect. I heard that they have given up. That's for sure. Who else can break the spell if you're the one doing it? Shangguan Ying said matter-of-factly. That guy deserves it. Bailey Hong Zhuang looked back. Bewitching, what do you think? We can go to the Bailey family first and settle this matter before heading to the AO clan. Bewitching then looked at AO Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao, what do you think? I'm fine with it. AO Ling Xiao hurriedly said. I'm already very grateful that you guys are willing to help me. Moreover, I do need some time to go into seclusion. Chapter 52:18. The Bailey Family. Ever since she returned from the Immortal Cloud Secret Territory, Bailey Union status in the Bailey family has been rising rapidly. Normally, as a direct descendant of the Bailey family, her status in the Bailey family was not bad. However, after what happened this time, she became the leader of the younger generation. On one hand, it was because of her that the descendants of the Bailey family were able to enter the Immortal Cloud Secret Territory. On the other hand, everyone was certain that she and Di Xiaofeng would become a couple. Regarding this point, her feelings were rather complicated. She understood that Di Xiaofeng was interested in her. However, regarding the final result, she could not be sure. Therefore, when everyone was discussing this matter, she maintained her silence. Bai Li Fan, the head of the Bailey family, was in a good mood. During this trip to the Immortal Cloud Secret Territory, the Bailey family was also the biggest winner. Yin Yin, I heard that you received an inheritance from the immortal cloud secret territory. Bai Fan grinned at Bailey Yunyan. Since you are so lucky, you must train hard in the future. Feeling the friendliness of the head of the house, Bailey Yunyan was surprised. Her beautiful face revealed a joyful expression. Head of the house, the inheritance I received this time was left behind by the ancestors of the Bailey family. Because of this, I was lucky enough to receive it. Bailey Yunyan's face was calm. She knew very well that if it weren't for this reason, there would be so many talented cultivators who entered the immortal cloud secret territory. She wouldn't have received the inheritance. The inheritance left behind by the ancestors of the Bailey family? Bai Fan's eyes flashed with surprise. This inheritance was left behind by the ancestors of the Bailey family. Then this is even more suitable for you. This is a good opportunity. You must seize it. Bai Fan smiled. Bailey Yunyan's performance in the Bailey family has always been great. Today's performance made him even more satisfied. He had the intention of training her well and hoped that Bailey Yunyan would achieve great results in the future. Thank you, head of the house. I will work hard. Bailey Yunyan smiled. Even though the Bailey family has always been kind to her, today's friendliness still surprised her. In the next moment, Bailey Yunyan took out a recording crystal and said, "Family head, this is the inheritance crystal I obtained from the senior." He said that only you can see this recording crystal. Looking at the recording crystal in front of him, Bai Fan's eyes lit up. The Bailey family used to be an extremely powerful family, but it was a pity that they lost their inheritance and gradually declined until they were in their current state. Fortunately, a starving camel was still bigger than a horse. In the end, it was passed down. In fact, every generation of patriarch hoped to make the Bailey family strong again. However, it was not easy to do so, and they had not succeeded for so many years. It would be great if this recording crystal contained a lost legacy of the clan. Thinking of this, Bai Fan could not help but feel excited. If this was really the case, then the rise of the Bailey family was just around the corner. After receiving the recording crystal, Bailey Yunyan and the others tactfully took their leave. Although they did not know what the ancestors of the Bailey family said in the recording crystal, since only the head of the house could see it, it must be something very important. After everyone left, Bai Fan immediately checked the recording crystal. Chapter 52:19. The next day, Bailey Yunyan went to see Bai Fan early in the morning. She had always kept Bailey Hongzhuang's matter in her heart. After returning, she wanted to check the genealogy. However, the genealogy was not something that just anyone could look at. She needed the family head's permission. Yesterday's situation was obviously not suitable for her to ask about in detail. Hence, she came again today. Yunyan, what's the matter? When Bai Fan saw Bailey Yunyan appear, he knew that she definitely had something to say. Family head, I'm here to ask for your permission to look at the genealogy. Bailey Yunyan said bluntly. Hearing this, Bai Fan frowned. Look at the genealogy? Why do you want to look at the genealogy all of a sudden? Family head, do you know the D family's young madam, Bailey Hongzhuang? I know. Bai Fan nodded. Putting aside Bailey Hongzhuang's outstanding performance in the pill refining competition, now that she had cured Chu Yingming's illness, she was in the limelight. Now, there was probably no one who did not know of Bailey Hongzhuang's name. At the same time, he also knew that the quota for their family to enter the Immortal Cloud secret realm was given to them by Bailey Hongzhuang. Hence, he was also very grateful towards Bailey Hongzhuang. Miss Bailey's surname is also Bailey. It's said that her elders used to be from the upper realm. Hence, she wanted to check the genealogy to see if there are any of her elders. Bailey Yunyan did not keep this a secret. In fact, this was not a big deal. You mean that Miss Bailey might be from our family? A trace of shock appeared in Bai Fan's eyes, but more than that, he was pleasantly surprised. Even though he knew that Bailey Hongzhuang's surname was also Bailey, he had never thought of this possibility. However, since Bailey Hongzhuang asked this question, it might really be possible. If all of this was true, it would be great news. Bailey Yunyan nodded. That seems to be the case. Miss Hongzhuang is very concerned about this matter. Then I'll go with you to check it out. Bai Fan was also very concerned about this matter. May I know which name Miss Hong Zhuang is looking for? Bailey Jingyu, Bailey Yinyan said. Miss Hong Zhuang asked me if there was such a clan head. Patriarch? Bai Li Fan was surprised. That makes it easier to investigate. That's right. Bailey Yinyan was very sure that when Bailey Hong Zhuang said this name, she remembered it clearly. Soon, Bai Li Fan and Bailey Yinyan began to flip through the family tree. The Bailey family had been passed down for many years, and the list of descendants was astonishing. Even if they directly targeted the head of the family, it was still not something that could be finished in a short time. Because Bailey Hong Zhuang did not mention the specific year, the two could only start from the beginning to the middle. Yin, what did Miss Hong Zhuang tell you? Bai Li Fan asked as he looked through the family tree. She said that she was not sure, but the elders had told her about this matter, so she only knew that there was a clan head named Bailey Jingyu. If we can find it in our family tree, it means that we are of the same lineage. Bai Li Fan nodded slightly and did not continue to ask. With Bailey Hong Zhuang's age, it was already good that she knew this. She probably did not know anything else. Chapter 52:20. Bai Li Fan had always hoped that Bailey Hong Zhuang was a member of their clan. However, as time passed, his heart sank. It seemed that he had been indulging in the wildest of fantasies. There were many people with the same surname in this world. They might not necessarily be of the same bloodline. Bailey Yinyan also sighed. If she could, she really wanted to be sisters with Bailey Hong Zhuang. It was really a pity, however. Just as they thought that it was impossible, Bailey Yinyan's gaze suddenly fell on the words clan head in the genealogy. Bailey Jingyu. Bailey Yinyan rubbed her eyes and carefully looked at the words. She was worried that her eyes were playing tricks on her. However, after carefully checking a few times, she found that she was not mistaken. A surprised smile appeared on her face. Clan head, I found it. There really is a clan head, Bailey Jingyu. Just as Bailey Yinyan thought that the clan head would be as excited as she was, Bai Li Fan's gaze was fixed on the genealogy in his hands. His eyes were filled with shock. Clan head. Bailey Yinyan looked at Bai Li Fan in confusion. She did not understand what had happened to the clan head. Clan head, I found Bailey Jingyu. Bailey Yinyan emphasized again. However, Bai Li Fan still did not answer. He only stared at the genealogy in shock. It was obvious that he had not recovered from the shock. Seeing this, Bailey Yinyan could not help but follow Bai Li Fan's gaze. She was also dumbfounded. This was because she saw two words on the genealogy, Bailey Hong Zhuang. Bailey Hong Zhuang? Bailey Yinyan's face was filled with disbelief. Our ancestor actually had a clan head named Bailey Hong Zhuang. Bai Li Fan finally recovered from his shock. He reached out and took the genealogy from Bailey Yinyan. After carefully comparing it, he suddenly realized that Bailey Jingyu and Bailey Hong Zhuang were actually grandfather and grandson. How could there be such a coincidence? Bailey Yinyan was also puzzled. This was too much of a coincidence. Why was Bailey Hong Zhuang's name the same as her ancestor's name? Was it just a coincidence? Bai Li Fan couldn't help but recall the information he had heard in the memory crystal. After connecting all the dots, he suddenly understood everything. Yinyan, I'm afraid this Miss Bailey is closely related to our family. Perhaps she's the hope for our family to rise again. Hearing Bai Li Fan's words, Bailey Yinyan was stunned. Patriarch, what do you mean? Do you remember the recording crystal you gave me yesterday? I remember. The recording crystal sent me a message. In our ancestors' generation, there was a prophecy master who predicted that a woman would return to the 100 Lane clan and bring our clan back to greatness. She holds the true inheritance of the Bailey family in her hands. Bai Li Fan's gaze was deep and complicated. When he had received this news yesterday, he was also extremely shocked. He only felt that it was too hard to believe. However, after connecting all the dots, it all seemed so natural. It was as if everything had been arranged this way. Bailey Hong Zhuang and Bailey Hong Zhuang. These two names were the same. He did not believe that it was a coincidence. How could all these things coincide so coincidentally? There was only one possibility. Chapter 52:21. After hearing Bai Li Fan's words, Bailey Yinyan's eyes widened. This news was simply too shocking. The Bailey family's inheritance has been lost for so many years, and they have long given up on finding it. However, she never thought that the inheritance she had received would contain such a prophecy. However, she had heard of the power of a prophet. Since it was a recording crystal left behind by the ancestor, it could not be false. However, the fact that it had the same name was simply too shocking. Yin, if you have the chance, you must invite Lady Hong Zhuang back. Bailey Fan looked at Bailey Yin with a burning gaze. The events of the past 2 days had filled him with endless hope. As the master of the house, his greatest wish was for the house to become stronger. Now that the ancestor had said that a woman would bring them hope, how could he not be excited? Bailey Yin nodded dazedly. It took her a while to recover from her astonishment. Don't worry, master. Hong Zhuang had said that she would come. The truth of Shi Er's matter has come to light. Nangong Xiaolong will come and apologize. When the time comes, Hong Zhuang and the others will come as well. Hearing this, Bailey Fan's eyes lit up. That's good. You should pay more attention to Shi Er. She has the best relationship with you. Master, Shi Er had been muddle-headed and had mistakenly believed Nangong Xiaolong. Now, she is filled with regret. Can you forgive her? Bailey Yunyan's eyes were filled with sincerity and hope. Although Bailey she had returned, she had not dared to see the master, nor had she dared to ask what she would do after this matter was resolved. After leaving the house, she had no one to rely on. It was far too desolate. Forget it. What's done is done. Bailey Fan slowly spoke. You can let Shir relax. After this matter is resolved, pretend that nothing happened and focus on your cultivation. Thank you, master. Bailey Yunyan's face was filled with joy. Her heart, which had been hanging in the air, was finally at ease. Right now, she was simply too grateful to Bailey Hong Zhuang and the others. If it weren't for them, it probably wouldn't have been so easy to get Shir back. Everything was finally going to clear up. She also began to hope that the woman mentioned by the old ancestor was Bailey Hong Zhuang. She felt that after meeting Bailey Hong Zhuang and the others, their situation began to improve. While Bailey Hong Zhuang was looking forward to it, Bailey Hong Zhuang and the others were also preparing to go to the Bailey family. Ling Xiao, are you not coming with us this time? Di Beichen looked at A.O. Ling Xiao and asked. A.O. Ling Xiao nodded slightly. Right now, the most important thing for me is to cultivate. Therefore, I won't be going with you this time. Ever since his last conversation with Di Beichen, he understood that if he wanted to take back his family, the most important thing was his own cultivation. Therefore, right now, he only wanted to spend all his energy on cultivation. He didn't want to waste his energy on other matters. All right then, you can cultivate peacefully in the house. If there's anything, you can look for Zhai's or Howen. They will help you. Di Beichen had already guessed this before, so he had already informed the two of them beforehand. A.O. Ling Xiao was pleasantly surprised when he heard this. He smiled and said, I didn't expect you to be so considerate. Chapter 52-22. Don't worry, I'll be fine. A.O. Ling Xiao smiled. He had already made up his mind and had been staying in the room to cultivate while waiting for everyone to come back. Then, Di Beichen lowered his voice and whispered a few words in his ear before leaving with everyone. Xiaofeng, are you considered a son-in-law now? When Xiren looked at Di Xiaofeng with a teasing expression, tell me honestly, have you been to the Bailey family before? Di Xiaofeng chuckled. I haven't been there before, but seeing how familiar you are with it, you must have been very fast when you pursued Ying, right? Of course. When Xiren raised his eyebrows proudly. Ying is my family's child bride. Hearing this, Di Xiaofeng was stunned and almost choked. Really? Ying is a child bride? In the next moment, Shangguan Ying grabbed Xiren's ear. What did you just say? Say it again. Wife, I was just joking. When Xiren smiled and said to Di Xiaofeng, I was joking. Don't take it seriously. I thought it was true. Di Xiaofeng shook his head. He actually believed when Xiren's words and thought that when Xiren was just lucky. Bailey Hong Zhuang looked at the group of people laughing in the distance and couldn't help but chuckle. By the way, Di Beichen, what did you say to Ling Xiao before you left? She saw clearly before and didn't overlook Di Baichen's little action. I just told him to be more careful in the family. If there's nothing, it's best not to come out. Di Baichen smiled faintly. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows and quickly understood the deeper meaning of this. So far, they haven't found the Jun family's spy in the family. Even if they already had the possibility in their hearts, they've been carefully observing since returning to the family, but didn't find anything. Therefore, they were unable to determine whether their previous judgment was true or not. Since Ling Xiao has chosen to go into seclusion, I'm sure he won't be coming out anytime soon. That way, we can rest assured. Di Baichen nodded slightly. Indeed, I've already told Father about this matter. Father will also pay more attention to it. He wouldn't be worried if it were someone else staying in the family. However, the relationship between the AO family and the Jun family was already very good. Once AO Ling Xiao returned to take back the AO family, he would definitely become the Jun family's enemy. This matter was unfavorable to the Jun family, so he had no choice but to guard against it. That's good. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. It seemed that Di Baichen had already arranged everything. While Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were happily heading towards the Bailey family, the Nangong family was in a different situation. Do we still have to head to the Bailey family? Nangong Xiaolong's expression was extremely ugly. If possible, he really did not want to go over and be humiliated. Over the past few days, his situation had become a joke in everyone's eyes. Even if it was his family, he could feel that although they didn't show anything on the surface, the ridicule in their eyes made him understand that he had become a laughingstock. Unfortunately, he had no way to change this situation. Chapter 52-23. None of the doctors are able to cure your condition. If we don't go find Bailey Hongzhuang, we won't be able to cure you. Nangong Yuqing sighed, his slightly bloated face full of helplessness. Compared to being humiliated, your life is more important. As for the rest, it won't be too late to get it back in the future. I'm now a cripple. There's no way I'll be able to vent my anger. Nangong Xiaolong's face was pale. My wife is also making a fuss about leaving. What do you think I should do? His wife was already very sad when he became like this, but at least she didn't choose to leave. However, after finding out that he was in this state because of his love affair, the situation changed. Now, in addition to worrying about his own affairs, he also had to think of ways to coax his wife. It wasn't because of anything else, but because he was already a laughingstock. If his wife ran away again, he really wouldn't be able to go out and meet people. Hearing this, Nangong Yuqing's eyes flashed with a complicated light. Even if you ask me, I wouldn't know. No matter what, since she's already your wife, she'll always be your wife. If she stirs up trouble, you'll have to be firm. Nangong Xiaolong nodded slightly. That's right. If she dares to continue causing trouble, I won't let her off easily. Now that he's a cripple, even if he can't have sex, at least he still has his cultivation. As long as he's a top cultivator, he can't let others look down on him. Let's go. We'll go see the patriarch first. Nangong Yuqing said after seeing that Nangong Xiaolong was almost done packing. Nangong family's discussion hall. Nangong Zhengquan and the elders gathered together again. Soon, it will be time for Nangong Xiaolong to meet with Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. This meant that it was time for Nangong Xiaolong to set off. Now that they've tried everything but failed to detoxify Nangong Xiaolong, this was the only way to save his life. Patriarch, Xiaolong will definitely be humiliated on this trip. Do you really want him to apologize to that slut Bailey Shi? The third elder's face was filled with unwillingness. He only had one son, Nangong Xiaolong, and he had always doted on him. However, it was because of that damned woman that Xiaolong had ended up in this state. Now, he even had to apologize to her. What kind of humiliation was this? Hearing this, Nangong Zhengquan felt a bit helpless. Third elder, you know the current situation very well. Apart from this, there's no other way. Why don't I go with Xiaolong? Third elder pondered. Third elder, in my opinion, it's better for Yuqing to accompany Xiaolong on this trip. Nangong Zhengquan's expression turned serious. This is a matter between the younger generation. I believe that Yuqing and Xiaolong will be able to resolve it. Following Nangong Zhenquan's words, the first elder added, "That's right. If you, first elder, are to get involved in the matters of the younger generation, things will become complicated. First elder, now that things have come to this, there's no need for you to be so angry. Don't tell me you still don't believe in Xiaolong's abilities?" The elders all tried to persuade him. This matter was related to the reputation of the clan. Chapter 52:24. Seeing that all the elders were against his decision, the third elder had no choice but to give up on his plan. He really wanted to take advantage of this opportunity to make trouble. The way Bailey Hongzhuang and the others did this time was really too much, in his opinion. However, he also understood that if he insisted on going when no one supported him, he would be asking for trouble. "I understand. I won't go." The third elder sighed and said. Hearing this, Nangong Zhengquan and the others felt relieved. If the third elder went, they really couldn't afford to lose face. When Nangong Xiaolong and Nangong Yuqing came to the hall together and heard this conversation, they felt helpless. Even if Nangong Xiaolong himself didn't want to go to the Bailey family, he didn't want his father to go with him. "Father, leave this matter to me. There won't be a problem." The third elder nodded slightly. "Then you must be careful on this trip. If you get bullied, you must endure it. Revenge is a dish best served cold." "I understand, father. You can rest assured." Nangong Xiaolong's eyes flashed with a firm light. Now that he has become like this, he has been ridiculed by everyone in a short period of time. His ability to endure was much stronger than before. Even if he went to the 100 Lane clan, he would only be ridiculed like this. No matter how bad it was, it couldn't be that bad. However, as long as he survives, he will find a way to get revenge. Seeing that Nangong Xiaolong wasn't discouraged by this matter, Nangong Zhengquan's face showed a satisfied expression. He looked at Nangong Yuqing and said, "Yuqing, you will accompany Xiaolong this time. If there is anything, you must act according to the circumstances." "Yes, father." Bailey Hongzhuang and the others rode on Di Xiaofeng's flying magic tool. Their speed was also very fast. Since Di Beichun returned to the family, Di Yujue also gave Di Beichun a flying magic tool, but Di Beichun hasn't used it yet. This time, they were going to the Bailey family. Nangong Yuqing and the others would also go. In order to ensure their safety, it was best to go together. "Xiaofeng, you haven't been to the Bailey family before. You won't lead the wrong way, right?" Xiren liked to joke around when he had nothing to do. As they got closer and closer to the Bailey family, everyone stopped cultivating. According to Di Xiaofeng's instructions, they should arrive today. Hearing this, Di Xiaofeng speechlessly glanced at Xiren and said, "Don't worry, I've already confirmed this map repeatedly. There's definitely no mistake. It's been a while since we last met. You must have missed Miss Yin Yen." Xiren smiled faintly. "Ever since I came to the Upper Realm, I've only been to the Di family. I wonder if every family's layout is similar? That might not be the case." Emperor Xiao Feng slowly said, "Some clans have similar arrangements, but some clans don't have such a clear distinction between direct and branch clans. Our family is divided like this because there are many cultivators. According to my judgment, the children of the Bailey family will gather together." Bailey Hongzhuang immediately understood. Obviously, the layout of a family was related to the size of the family. Compared to the Di family, the Bailey family was naturally much smaller. Then the Jun family, Xiao family, and other clans have similar arrangements to the Di family. Chapter 52:25. Just as everyone was discussing, the flying instrument finally came to a stop. In their line of sight, there was nothing but emptiness in front of them. There was nothing special about it. However, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were familiar with this. This was because the Di family's gate was the same. It was obviously a smokescreen. Di Xiaofeng held a shiny crystal in his hand and said, "This is the crystal that Yin gave me before we left. Once we reach the Bailey family's gate, this crystal will show us." In the next moment, Di Xiaofeng crushed the crystal in his hand. Seeing this, everyone was shocked. However, before they could ask what was going on, two figures had already appeared in everyone's line of sight. The two young cultivators looked at Di Bei-chun and the others. After a glance, they had already guessed their identity. They immediately asked, "Excuse me, are you Di Gongzi?" That's right. Hearing this, the two cultivators were pleasantly surprised. The family head has already told us that Di Xiaofeng will be here in 2 days and asked us to wait for you. The faces of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others also showed smiles as they followed behind the two cultivators and approached the Bailey clan. After everyone walked a few steps inside, everything in front of them suddenly became clear. Just as Di Xiaofeng said, the Bailey family was much smaller than the Di family. However, it was still a large family. After all, the Bailey family had been around for so many years and had a certain amount of history. However, the Bailey family was not divided into different parts like the Di family. Instead, they were all gathered together and looked very lively. As they walked closer, the Bailey family's cultivators all looked at them with curiosity and surprise. Look, that must be the Di family, right? Wow, the Di family cultivators are too good-looking. Look, the man in blue is very handsome. The man in white next to him is also very handsome. However, the man in black is also very handsome. Didn't you guys notice the white-haired man? That's a real monster. The women of the Bailey family stood rooted to the ground. At this moment, they couldn't care less about being reserved. This kind of eye-catching scene was not something they could see often. As when Xiren listened to the discussions of the crowd, his gaze involuntarily swept over Di Bei-chun and the others. Indeed, these fellows all had devilish looks. Normally, he thought of himself as a handsome man, but it was obvious that there was still a gap between him and these guys. Sigh, I suddenly miss Ling Xiao. At least I still have Ling Xiao to keep me company at this time. As Xiren's voice fell, Shangwan Yingying couldn't help but laugh out loud. Come on, at this point, you won't have a chance to turn things around in this lifetime. Ling Xiao as well. Why must he go into seclusion at such a time? When Xiren's face was full of resentment. He then looked at Bai Shi. Even a demonic beast in human form is so devilishly handsome. I really don't know what to say. Like Master, like Contracted Beast, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Bei-chun were already so devilish. Therefore, Bai Shi was just as devilish. Bai Shi glanced at Xiren and said, Big Brother Wen, you're actually more handsome than Big Brother Ao. Is this a compliment? Chapter 52-26. The news of Di Xiaofeng's group's arrival quickly spread throughout the Bailey family. Bailey Yunyan was the first to receive the news and immediately ran out. She knew that Di Xiaofeng and Nangong Yuqing had agreed on a time, so she had been waiting for it as the time drew closer and closer. Today, she had finally waited for it. Bailey Fan and the other elders also rushed out after hearing the news. The Di family's young master and Lin family's young master had personally come, so they naturally had to welcome them. Moreover, the other party had come for their family's matters. No matter how they looked at it, they were full of gratitude. When Bailey Yunyan arrived, she found that the family head and the other elders had already arrived and were enthusiastically welcoming Di Xiaofeng's group. Young Master Lin, young Master Di, our Bailey family is really honored by your presence. Bailey Fan's face was filled with joy, but his eyes quietly fell on Bailey Hongzhuang. Ever since he knew that Bailey Hongzhuang was very likely to be the one destined for him, he had been looking forward to seeing Bailey Hongzhuang as soon as possible. At this moment, Bailey Hongzhuang was standing beside Di Bei-chun, so it was easy to guess her identity. Bailey family head is too polite. Di Xiaofeng cupped his hands. We took the liberty to come and disturb you this time. We are very sorry. Young Master Di, what are you saying? This trip to the Immortal Cloud secret realm is all thanks to your care. Moreover, this time you're also here to help seek justice. As a family head, I should be ashamed. I'm really grateful to you. Bailey Fan said, Yes, it is all thanks to young Master Di's help. Otherwise, our family wouldn't be able to achieve such results. If there is a chance, you must come often. The elders of the Bailey clan also echoed, their eyes full of sincerity. They were grateful to Di Bei Chun and the others from the bottom of their hearts. After feeling the Bailey family's sincerity and welcome, Di Bei Chun's group was in a good mood. Bailey Hongzhuang could also feel Bailey fans' gaze on her and immediately had some guesses in her mind. She clearly noticed that Bailey fan was paying attention to her. She guessed that Bailey Yunyan had already checked the family records, but she didn't know the results. At the same time, Bailey Yunyan's figure appeared in everyone's sight. Yunyan. Seeing Bailey Yunyan's appearance, Di Xiaofeng's face immediately revealed a smile. And obediently, she stood. And obediently stood by Bailey Yunyan's side. And Bailey Fan and the others glanced at Bailey Yunyan and Di Xiaofeng. They already knew that these two were in love with each other. They had their hands to support, and it would be the best outcome if the two of them could really become husband and wife. Yunyan, you are most familiar with young Master Di. I will leave the arrangements to you. You must treat them well. Bailey Fan smiled and instructed. Yes, family head. Bailey Fan then looked at Di Bei Chun's group again. You must be very tired after traveling for so many days. We have already prepared a place for you to stay. Why don't you take a rest and have dinner together later? Thank you. Di Bei Chun cupped his hands. Chapter 52-27. After Bailey Fan and the others left, the atmosphere became more relaxed. Even if the Bailey family was not as powerful as the Di family, they were still elders and had some restraints. Most importantly, Di Xiaofeng was interested in Bailey Yunyan, so they had to pay more attention to his attitude. I'll take you to rest now. Bailey Yunyan's lips curled into a faint smile. Her gaze was fixed on Bailey Hongzhuang and the others, but she did not dare to look at Di Xiaofeng. Noticing Bailey Yunyan's reaction, Di Xiaofeng could not help but ask with a smile, Yunyan, why do you seem to be avoiding me? I'm not, Bailey Yunyan retorted. I just feel that you must be tired after being on the road for so long. Bailey Hongzhuang and Shangguan Ying looked at each other. Obviously, Bailey Yunyan was shy as a girl. The more she did not look at Di Xiaofeng, the more she cared about him. Di Xiaofeng nodded slightly, but his gaze was fixed on Bailey Yunyan. Not long after, they arrived at the place the Bailey family had prepared for them. With one look, they knew that they had put in a lot of effort. It was clean, spacious, and bright. It was obviously specially prepared for them. You guys are really considerate. Di Bei Chun smiled faintly. Ever since the family head knew that you guys were coming, he was very attentive. If it were not for your help, we would not have been able to enter the Immortal Cloud's secret realm and have such results. This is the first time our family has achieved such good results. The family head and all the elders are very happy. Bailey Yunyan seemed to have thought of how happy Bailey Fan and the others were before, and her face bloomed with radiance. She clearly remembered how happy her family members were when they heard the news. As a member of the Bailey family, she was very proud of it. If that's the case, Xiaofeng can rest assured. He should be able to get the approval of his future father-in-law. Xiren raised his eyebrows and looked at Di Xiaofeng and Bailey Yunyan mockingly. Indeed, Di Bei Chun nodded and looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. Wife, you should take credit for this. Bailey Yunyan's cheeks immediately turned red after hearing everyone's words. Her eyes flickered as she didn't know where to look. Emperor Xiaofeng, quickly tell them to stop talking nonsense. However, Di Xiaofeng chuckled. Yunyan, I also want to know if I've been recognized. Hearing this, Bailey Yunyan's face turned even redder. She angrily glared at Di Xiaofeng and ran out of the house. I'm too lazy to talk to you. You guys should rest first. I'll come back later. Seeing Bailey Yunyan run away, Di Xiaofeng couldn't help but chase her to the door. However, Bailey Yunyan had already run out. Since this was the Bailey family, he did not continue to chase after them. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others looked at Di Xiaofeng's helpless expression and couldn't help but laugh. Although Di Xiaofeng and Bailey Yunyan hadn't broken the window paper to this extent, they all knew that this marriage couldn't run away. Di Xiaofeng was a person who was infatuated with love. For so many years, no woman could move him, only Bailey Yunyan. Now that Bailey Union's feelings were very obvious, it naturally wasn't a problem. Chapter 52:28. Hong Zhuang, don't worry. Since we're already here, we'll know the results soon enough. Shangguan Ying said with a smile. Bailey Hong Zhuang nodded, a faint smile on her lips. She really wasn't in a hurry. On one hand, it was just as Shangguan Ying said. On the other hand, she had already guessed part of the answer from Patriarch Bailey's expression. After leaving the house, Bailey Yunyan continued to walk forward. Even though she had walked quite a distance, her face was still burning. It didn't look like it was going to get any better. Yunyan, where are you going? Suddenly, a voice called out to Bailey Yunyan, causing her to stop. Chia. Bailey Yunyan looked at Bailey Shi in surprise. When did you come? When did I come? Bailey Shi raised an eyebrow. Shouldn't I be the one asking you this? I had to walk over right in front of you. But what were you thinking about? You didn't even notice me. Bailey Yunyan paused and quickly said, It's nothing. I just heard from the elders that Patriarch told you to take good care of Di, Gongzi, and the others. Why did you run out on your own? I just remembered that there are some things I need to do, so I wanted to go back. So it's like this. Bailey, she smiled and immediately took Bailey Yunyan's hand. How can other things be more important than taking good care of Di, Gongzi, and the others? Patriarch has already said that your task for the next few days is to take good care of the guests. It just so happens that I also want to go and thank them. Come with me. I don't know what to say by myself. How about we go later? Bailey Yunyan was in a difficult position. Recalling the scene just now, she didn't want to go back and be teased again. Aya, what later? Since you're already here, let's go together. Bailey, she didn't give Bailey Yunyan a chance to refuse and pulled her towards Di Xiaofeng's residence. Bailey Hong Zhuang and the others were chatting in full swing when they suddenly heard footsteps outside the door. Everyone immediately quieted down. At this time, who could it be? Soon, they saw Bailey Shi at the front and Bailey Yunyan at the side, whose face was still red with embarrassment. Seeing this, everyone chuckled. They knew that Bailey Yunyan was easily embarrassed, so they didn't tease her anymore. Miss Xia. Bailey Hong Zhuang looked at Bailey Shi with a smile. After not seeing her for some time, Bailey Shi's situation was clearly much better than before. Whether it was her essence, chi, or anything else, she had regained her luster. She was no longer the woman who had lost all hope and was only looking for death. Miss Hong Zhuang, it's great to see you again. Upon seeing Bailey Hong Zhuang, Bailey Shi became enthusiastic. Thank you for saving me back then. If it weren't for you, I would be dead by now. You're too polite. Let bygones be bygones. It's great that you're able to move on. I was too stupid in the past. I actually tried to kill myself for a man like that. Bailey Shi's eyes were filled with complex emotions. If she could, she really wanted everything to start over. Then she definitely wouldn't have fallen for Nangong Xiaolong. In the past, she didn't know what true love was. She only thought that ignorance was love. But after knowing that Di Xiaofeng was serious about Bailey Yunyan, she understood. Chapter 52:29. In terms of identity, status, and appearance, no matter from which angle, Di Xiaofeng was much better than Nangong Xiaolong. If she wanted to be with Nangong Xiaolong, then the difference between Bailey Yunyan and Di Xiaofeng was even greater. However, Di Xiaofeng had always protected Bailey Yunyan and was willing to express his feelings in front of so many people. Comparing the two, the difference was huge. She was very envious of Yunyan. At the same time, she was sincerely happy for her. At least Yunyan found someone who was truly good to her. She wasn't like her, who was in the wrong. Originally, Bailey Hong Zhuang and the others were worried about Bailey Shi's situation. Although Bailey Shi's situation had improved when she left, it wasn't something that could be solved in a short period of time, unless she encountered some kind of opportunity that would make her feel enlightened and that everything in the past was nothing. However, seeing Bailey Shi's state of mind, they understood that she had let it go. It's good that you can see past it. Bailey Hong Zhuang smiled. Thinking back to Bailey Shi's zombie-like appearance, this was the real her. That's right, that Nangong Xiaolong is scum. Shang Wanning couldn't help but say, "There are many good men in this world. You will definitely find one." Hearing this, Bailey She's eyes flashed with sadness. With her current state, how could she hope to find a good man? She had already given up on this plan. Shang Wanning also saw through Bailey She's thoughts and said, "Monsieur, don't give up hope because of what happened before. Those who truly like you won't care about these things. I believe that you will definitely meet a man who is true to you." Bailey She looked at Shang Wanning in surprise. Then a smile appeared on her face. "I hope so. In 2 days, Nangong Xiaolong will be here," Di Xiaofeng slowly said. Thinking back to Nangong Xiaolong's proud expression when he mentioned Bailey Shi, he wanted to teach that damn guy a lesson. However, he had to admit that Lin Qianqian's kick was indeed powerful. This was the best punishment for Nangong Xiaolong. Hearing this, Bailey Shi's expression couldn't help but change a little. "Actually, I'm already fine. He came." Seeing Bailey Shi's conflicted expression, everyone immediately understood what she was thinking. She probably didn't want to see Nangong Xiaolong again. After all, the other party had hurt her so deeply. In the past, she had indeed hoped that Nangong Xiaolong would come see her. But now, she did not want to see Nangong Xiaolong. From the mouths of Yin Yin and the others, she learned that she was just one of Nangong Xiaolong's lovers. However, she still believed him and gave him her heart. Now that he thought about it, it was really a joke. "Sure, don't think about anything else." Bailey Yin couldn't help but say, "This time, he came to apologize to you. When the time comes, you don't have to be polite." "That's right, Nangong Xiaolong is scum. It's only right to teach him a lesson," Di Xiaofeng said. Because of Nangong Xiaolong, Bailey Shi's life had been greatly affected. How could she just let it go? Chapter 52:30. But when I see him, I don't even know what to say. Bailey She bit her lip, her pretty face full of complicated emotions. She couldn't see past it before, but now she did. She felt like she was a joke in front of Nangong Xiaolong, so she didn't want to see him again. "What are you afraid of?" Shang Wanning raised her eyebrows. "He's the one who came to apologize. His life is in your hands. You don't have to say anything, just listen to his apology. If you're still angry, then don't give him the antidote and let him perish on his own." Bailey Hongzhuang and the others nodded as Shangwan Ying's voice fell. The reason why they let Nangong Xiaolong come this time was to let this guy know his mistake and let Bailey She let go of this matter. Ying is right. After Nangong Xiaolong comes, you can vent your anger however you want. Don't think that you can't raise your head in front of him because of what happened in the past. Now that guy is inhumane. In comparison, he's now everyone's laughingstock. Speaking of Nangong Xiaolong's miserable state, Xiren's face was calm. Even as a man, he couldn't stand Nangong Xiaolong's actions anymore. He deserved to be taught a lesson. "Monsieur, don't be afraid. We're all here." Bailey Hongzhuang also spoke up. Bailey She looked up at everyone. Seeing that everyone trusted her, she nodded seriously. "I understand." Seeing this, everyone was relieved. At night, the Bailey family specially prepared an open-air banquet to welcome Di Beichun and the others. The afterglow of the moonlight scattered on the ground, revealing a trace of silver, hazy, and tranquil beauty. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others sat in their seats, watching the performance of the singers in the middle, their faces full of smiles. "Honored guests, you've come all the way here just to help she vent her anger. I'm really grateful." Bailey Fan picked up his wine glass and said, "Here's a toast to you." Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others all stood up. "Master Bailey is too kind. We are the ones who are grateful for your hospitality." When Bailey Fan and the others saw that Di Beichun and the others were so approachable, they felt a burst of joy in their hearts. One had to know that the difference in power between the two clans was not small. Usually, the disciples of the great aristocratic families would not pay much attention to them. Previously, they were quite worried about this. Fortunately, such a situation did not happen, so they were completely relieved. There were many young cultivators from the Bailey family who attended the banquet. Apparently, they were all direct descendants of the family. "Yin Yin, I am so envious of you to be able to receive young Master D's love. When the news first spread, a group of young female disciples were filled with envy towards Bailey Yunyan. Now that they had seen Di Xiaofeng, their envy was even stronger. Bailey Yunyan had a smile on her face as her gaze fell on Di Xiaofeng, who was not far away. She was also very glad that she was able to meet Di Xiaofeng. Yunyan, there are quite a few young masters here. Can you introduce them to us? Maybe we have a chance to. Chapter 52:31. Regardless of his status and background, just his outstanding appearance alone was enough to move the hearts of many women. That's Di Beichun, he's already married. When Xiren beside him is also married. Facing everyone's fervent gazes, Bailey Yunyan couldn't help but explain. Other than them, there's also that white-haired man. I've never seen such a good-looking person in my life. Bailey Yao Air's eyes flashed with admiration. From the first time she saw this white-haired man, her heart was already moved. Di Xiaofeng and the others were all very handsome, but the first one she noticed was this white-haired man. This was a kind of soul-stirring beauty. Even if it was just a glance, it seemed like it could make her heart stop beating. That's right. Who was this person? Following everyone's gaze, Bailey Yunyan's eyes fell on Bai Li Yinshe. In fact, when she saw Bai Li Yinshe for the first time today, she was also stunned. It was also her first time seeing such an exotic man. However, after knowing that Bai Li Yinshe was Bailey Hongzhuang's little brother, she understood. He is Bai Li Yinshe, Hongzhuang's little brother. Hearing this, Bailey Yao Air's eyes lit up. Then is he married? I don't think so. Bailey Yunyan couldn't help but look at Bailey Shi and confirm. We didn't hear that Bai Li Yinshe is married today, right? Indeed, we didn't. Bailey Shi nodded. Then I know. Bailey Yao Air's face revealed a happy and excited smile. As long as the other party wasn't married, then she still had a chance. Yunyan, tell me the name of that black-robed man? Bailey Yunyan looked at the love-struck faces of everyone and felt a wave of helplessness in her heart. However, who told him to be so good-looking? Usually, they were wild bees and butterflies that couldn't be stopped. Now that they were like this, it was normal. His name is Mo Yunjue. He's also unmarried. Bailey Yunyan didn't need anyone to ask. She directly told them everything she knew. Of course, if her daughter could really be liked by the other party, then she would be very supportive. After the group of women left, suddenly, another group of men came up to greet them. Yunyan, who is that girl in the same white dress? Bailey Yunyan subconsciously looked to the front. With this look, she also knew who everyone was asking about. She is Linger, unmarried. Haha, you know me best. Bailey Hongzhuang was sitting opposite to Bailey Yunyan. She could only see a group of young disciples talking to Bailey Yunyan one by one, but she couldn't hear what they were talking about. It seems like Yin is very popular in the family. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. Shangguan Ying nodded slightly. Indeed, she seems to have a good relationship with everyone. Di Xiaofeng heard Bailey Hongzhuang and Shangguan Ying's conversation and couldn't help but chuckle. There's a reason why Yunyan is so busy right now. What reason? You'll know soon. Sure enough, it didn't take long for Bailey Hongzhuang to understand Di Xiaofeng's reason. Originally, Bai Li Yinshe was eating fruits while watching the performance. It was a very good feeling. Chapter 52:32. However, this quiet situation did not last long. A figure appeared beside him. Young Master Yinshe, you must be bored here alone. Why don't I have a drink with you? Bailey Yao walked to Bai Li Yinshe's side with a smile. She was not a casual person, but this was the first time in so many years that she fell in love at first sight. She knew that Bai Li Yinshe would leave after a few days, so she had to seize the opportunity. Otherwise, once he left, she would never have another chance. Seeing Bailey Yao appear, Bai Li Yinshe could not help but be stunned. He stared at the other party in a daze, but did not know what to say. Our surnames are both Bailey. Since we're so fated, don't you think we should have a drink? Bailey Hongzhuang, who was not far away, noticed this scene and immediately understood. She remembered very clearly that the woman beside by Li Yin-che was the woman who had just gone to find Bailey Yunyan. Yin-che is really popular in everyone's eyes now. Shang Wan-ying could not help but chuckle. It's not just him. Yun Jue is the same. Wherever they looked, the crowd clearly noticed that many women were secretly casting flirtatious glances at the two of them. Not far away, Bai Li Fan and the others also noticed this, but they all laughed it off. If they could really form a relationship, it would naturally be something they would be happy to see. This kind of thing was hard to say. The matters between the younger generation should be left to them to solve. Yin-che is really lucky now. There are so many beauties throwing themselves at him. Xiao Bai sighed. It felt that these women were looking at Bai Li Yin-che as if they wanted to eat him up. Xiao Xuanzi's eyes were filled with envy and excitement. I really hope to transform into a human soon. I hope so too. Xiao Bai nodded. They were originally beasties, but now that Yin-che had become a heartthrob, they were still beasties. Xiao He looked at Xiao Bai and Xiao Xuanzi's envious faces and could not help but roll her eyes. Yin-che was originally good-looking. When he transforms into a human, he will naturally be handsome, but the two of you may not be so. Xiao He, are you saying that I'm not good-looking? Xiao Xuanzi expressed his dissatisfaction, staring at Xiao He with wide eyes. My main target is Little White. Look at how black it is. I don't even know what it looks like in human form. What if it looks like Nangong Yuqing? What do you think it will do? As Xiao He's words, Xiao Bai Xiao He, who was eating, almost choked. Will I look like that ugly Nangong Yuqing? Xiao Xuanzi quietly looked at Xiao Bai and nodded. Xiao He's words are reasonable. Can you repeat it for me? Xiao Bai was angry. It felt that in these two guys' eyes, it looked like Nangong Yuqing. This was simply intolerable. Just as Bai Liao and Bai Li Yin-che were talking, a few more women came over. They looked like they also wanted to get to know Bai Li Yin-che. Bai Li Yin-che couldn't help but feel helpless when he saw the sudden appearance of a few women. He wasn't good at dealing with people in the first place. Now that a few women had suddenly appeared, he really didn't know what to do. Chapter 52-33. Even though Bailey Hongzhuang noticed Bai Li Yin-che's gaze, she could only shrug her shoulders and give him a helpless expression. She was naturally duty-bound to help, but there was nothing she could do about this kind of romantic debt. Bai Li Yin-che felt even more helpless when he saw this. He then turned his gaze to Di Beichun. Di Beichun only quietly reached out and hugged Bailey Hongzhuang. His meaning was obvious. Who asked you to not have a wife? Bai Li Yin-che silently retracted his gaze, knowing that it was impossible for anyone to help him. Now you're in for a treat. Ling looked at Bai Li Yin-che playfully. Ever since Bai Li Yin-che transformed into a human, his attitude toward her was not the same as before. Normally, she could not find a chance to turn the tables. Now that she saw Bai Li Yin-che like this, she felt extremely happy. Bai Li Yin-che glanced indifferently at Ling beside him. However, he noticed something not far away from them from the corner of his eyes. The corners of his lips hooked up into a smile. Then let's see if you'll enjoy it. Hearing Bai Li Yin-che's words, Ling could not help but frown. Her eyes were filled with confusion. How could she not understand what Bai Li Yin-che meant? However, Ling soon understood. A man from the Bailey family walked over. Ling felt that his gaze was very familiar. It was the same gaze that Dai Heoan looked at her. It turned out that Bai Li Yin-che had noticed the situation earlier, which was why he said those words. Miss Ling, this one is Bailey Uni. It's a pleasure to meet you. Bailey Uni's face was filled with a warm smile. I'm very happy too. Linger looked helplessly at the young man in front of her. When she thought about how she had lived so much longer than him, she felt that the other party was completely like a little brat. She didn't have the slightest interest in talking to him. However, Bailey Uni clearly didn't notice this as he continued. How about we go out and play together tomorrow? There are also some fun places nearby. If you want to ask me out, you have to ask him first. In the next moment, Linger stretched out her hand and pointed to a spot not far away. Hearing this, Bai Li Yin-che couldn't help but be startled. Only then did he realize that the person Ling was referring to was Bai Li Yin Che. Not only was Bailey Uni stunned, but Bai Li Yin Che was also stunned. He didn't expect that Ling would drag him into this matter at a time like this. Di Xiaofeng and the others, who were happily watching from the side, also focused their gazes on Ling and Bai Li Yin Che. Could it be that they had missed something during this period of time? Ling, what's going on? Shang Wanning looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in astonishment. Logically speaking, among all of them, Bailey Hongzhuang should be the one who understood the situation the best. However, Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head. I don't know either. Could it be that Bai Li Yin Che and Ling are a couple? Bailey Yao looked at Bai Li Yin Che in disbelief. She only wanted to know what kind of answer the latter would give. She really didn't want to believe this result, and only hoped that Ling was imagining things. Compared to everyone's astonishment and shock, Ling was very calm. Bai Li Yin Che quickly reacted and guessed that Ling didn't want to be disturbed by others, so she used him as a shield. Seeing that Bai Li Yin Che didn't respond, Ling couldn't help but ask again, "Didn't you say you would take care of me?" Chapter 52-34. At the side, Xiao He, Xiao Bai, and Xiao Xuanzi couldn't help but look at each other. What was going on? Goddess Ling can't have fallen for Yin Che, right? Xiao Xuanzi wailed. Why didn't she wait for me to transform into a human? Maybe I'm even more handsome than Yin Che. I think you should just give up on that idea. Xiao He rolled her eyes. I think Yin Che is the most handsome after transforming into a human. How can you be so sure that everyone on the boat is dead? Xiao Xuanzi looked displeased. Xiao Bai naturally doesn't have any hope, but I'm different. What did you say? Xiao Bai narrowed his eyes, his gaze filled with endless threat. Say that again. Hey, don't hit me. Xiao Xuanzi hugged his head and flew around. Xiao He was the one who said that first. Bai Li Yin Che stared fixedly at Ling. In the next moment, under everyone's astonished gazes, he slowly walked in front of Ling. The moonlight shone on that purple figure. His white hair and purple eyes were like the treasures of heaven and earth. They were bright and resplendent, causing people to unconsciously become intoxicated by them. Ling stared blankly at Bai Li Yin Che, who was continuously approaching her. Everything seemed to have become his background. He was so handsome that it made people forget to breathe. After Bai Li Yin Che approached Ling, his lips suddenly curled into a devilish smile. With a wave of his hand, he directly pulled Ling up. The sudden action startled Ling, causing her to lose her footing. Just as she was caught off guard and almost fell, Bai Li Yin Che wrapped an arm around her waist. That's right. If you want to ask Ling out, you have to get my permission first. Bai Li Yin Che's gaze turned towards Bailey Uni. However, I don't agree. Ling, am I right? Bai Li Yin Che looked at Ling mockingly. His eyes were shining brightly like gems. Ling glared at Bai Li Yin Che angrily and forced a smile on her face. Yes, this little fart beast, she had only used him as a shield. Was he taking advantage of her now? Bailey Yao and Bailey Uni stared blankly at this scene, their gazes instantly dimming. They never thought that Bai Li Yin Che would be a couple with Ling. If that was the case, wouldn't they have no hope? Bailey Yin and the others couldn't help but stare blankly after seeing this scene. None of them had thought about this before. But now, looking at Bai Li Yin Che and Ling standing together, they felt that they were a perfect match. Moreover, the two of them were demonic beasts, so they must have a common language. If Daiheoan knew that the person Ling likes is Yin Che, he would definitely be very sad. Xiren shook his head and sighed. Daiheoan was interested in Ling, and everyone could see this. It was just that Ling had always ignored him. Regarding this, they only thought that Ling didn't like Daiheoan's type. Until now, he suddenly understood. It wasn't that Ling didn't like that type, but that she already had someone in her heart. So what? Shangwan Ying raised her eyebrows. I think that Ling and Yin Che are more compatible. Don't you think that they are a match made in heaven? Bailey Yin slowly walked to Di Xiaofeng's side with a trace of worry on her delicate face. Chapter 5235. Di Xiaofeng was slightly startled. He didn't expect this situation. Without waiting for Di Xiaofeng to reply, Di Beichen smiled and said, "Don't worry, they won't be angry." Really? Bailey Yunyan was still a bit worried. If it was someone else who expressed goodwill to Di Xiaofeng, she would definitely be extremely unhappy. Today's matter was her fault. She didn't understand the situation in advance. "Don't worry, it's fine." Bailey Hongzhuang also spoke up. Seeing that the two of them were so sure of themselves, Bailey Yunyan nodded in relief. "That's good." Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun quietly looked at each other. Others didn't know, but they were very clear. Whether or not Yin Shay and Ling would develop feelings for each other in the future was something they couldn't determine. However, at least for now, they didn't have feelings for each other as everyone thought. After all, it was already good enough that these two guys didn't quarrel when they were together. It was impossible for them to be so lovey-dovey. After knowing that Bailey Yin Shay and Ling already had someone in their heart, Bailey Yao and Bailey Uni could only dispel the thoughts in their hearts. If the other party was someone else, perhaps they wouldn't give up. However, after comparing themselves to the other party, they really didn't have any competitive power. Thus, they sadly gave up. However, after everyone knew that Bailey Yin Shay was no longer possible, many people turned their attention to Mo Yunjue. Originally, there were already many people interested in Mo Yunjue. Now, there were even more people. Mo Yunjue was originally a handsome man. Adding on his unapproachable temperament, one could clearly feel his coldness from a few meters away, but it made people want to get closer. He was extremely good-looking. The more you looked at him, the more interesting he became. His cold lines, sculpted appearance, and cold temperament made people feel fascinated no matter which aspect it was. Mo Yunjue minded his own business and continued to sip his wine. Because of the cold aura he emitted, many women did not dare to rashly approach him even though they had feelings of admiration. This kind of man was always dangerous. If she wasn't careful, she could be hurt by his coldness. However, as everyone gave up on Bailey Yin Shay, Mo Yunjue became even more eye-catching and became the most desirable person in the eyes of all the women. If Ling Xiao knew about this, he would definitely regret not coming. Xiren couldn't help but sigh. Among them, only Ao Ling Xiao and Mo Yunjue were still single. If he could really find a woman he liked, that would be great. Hearing this, Di Xiaofeng couldn't help but chuckle. When we go back, we have to tell Ling Xiao about today's scene. However, just when everyone thought that even Mo Yunjue's coldness couldn't stop the women's passion, Mo Yunjue impatiently threw out a sentence, causing all the women to give up. "I don't like women." Cough, cough, cough. Shang Wanning couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of water and choked herself. Yunjue is really too strong. In order to avoid trouble, he can even say such words. Only Bailey Yanche looked at Mo Yunjue thoughtfully and said, "Big Brother Ling found a very good reason. If this happens again in the future, you don't have to use me as a shield. Next time, I will directly say that I don't like people." Ling said indifferently. Chapter 5236. The next day, Bailey Hongzhuang was invited to the meeting hall in the morning to have a chat with househead Bailey. The person who invited her was naturally Bailey Yunyan. When Di Xiaofeng and the others found out that househead Bailey only invited Bailey Hongzhuang, they were very surprised. They couldn't understand why househead Bailey wanted to invite Bailey Hongzhuang for a meeting. However, when they thought of how Bailey Hongzhuang wanted to check the Bailey family's genealogy, they could roughly guess the reason. Perhaps Bailey Hongzhuang's previous deduction was correct. She really was a member of the Bailey family. "Don't worry, Hongzhuang will be back soon." Bailey Yunyan felt everyone's worry and couldn't help but smile. On the way, Bailey Hongzhuang asked, "Yunyan, have you checked the genealogy?" Bailey Yunyan nodded slightly, her face filled with joy. "Hongzhuang, I found Bailey Jingyu's name in the genealogy. It seems that we really are a family." As soon as she said this, Bailey Hongzhuang immediately let out a sigh of relief. Her delicate and beautiful face also bloomed into a bright and beautiful smile. Her judgment was indeed correct. She was even more grateful that the Bailey family still existed after so many years. Even if the Bailey family's influence was much smaller than before, at least it still existed. This was already a great comfort to her. However, Hong Zhuang, there's still something very strange. What is it? After I found Bailey Jingyu's name, I actually saw Bailey Hong Zhuang in the househead column. I didn't expect that there was another househead in our family's history who had the same name as you. Bailey Yunyin sighed. She didn't think much of it and just thought that it was all a coincidence. After all, that was a matter from 1,000 years ago. It wasn't impossible for the same name to appear. It's a coincidence. Bailey Hong Zhuang smiled faintly. Her expression was calm and indifferent, but she couldn't control the waves in her heart. That was her. Bailey Jingyu was her grandfather. In order to nurture her, he had exhausted all his efforts. However, she had unexpectedly fallen and failed to live up to his expectations. Most importantly, she didn't know how sad her grandfather would be if she died. She didn't dare to think about it. After Bailey Hong Zhuang entered the meeting hall, Bailey Yunyan left first. This time, Bailey Fan only wanted to talk to Bailey Hong Zhuang alone. He didn't call her along, so she naturally wouldn't follow. Master Bailey. Bailey Hong Zhuang cupped her hands and smiled. Miss Hong Zhuang, I took the liberty of inviting you here today. I hope you won't take offense. Bailey Fan had a polite smile on his face. His attitude towards Bailey Hong Zhuang showed that he did not treat her as a junior at all. You're too polite. I'm sure Miss Hong Zhuang knows why I've invited you here today. Then I'll get straight to the point. In the next moment, Bailey Fan took out a book and handed it to Bailey Hong Zhuang. He said, "This is the genealogy of my Bailey family. Yinyan has already told me about what happened before. In the history of my Bailey family, there was indeed a master named Bailey Jingyu." Bailey Hong Zhuang took the genealogy book and realized that Bailey Fan had already marked it. Therefore, she saw Bailey Jingyu's name at first glance. In addition, I also saw your name here. I believe this is not a coincidence. Chapter 52:37. Even though her heart was in a perilous situation, Bailey Hong Zhuang's face remained calm. Bailey family head. What do you mean? You should know that Yunyan had received an inheritance in the Divine Cloud secret realm, right? Bailey Hong Zhuang nodded gently. She had heard about this from Bailey Yunyan, but she did not know the details. I've heard of it. Hearing Bailey Hong Zhuang's reply, Bailey Fan stared fixedly at her and suddenly asked, Lady Hong Zhuang, if I may ask, do you have the inheritance of the Bailey family in your hands? When he asked this question, he was also extremely conflicted. Even though he had found out about this from the recording crystal, he did not know how to verify it. Hence, he could only take the liberty of asking this question. Bailey Hong Zhuang was stunned. Bailey Fan's words were getting more and more confusing. What do you mean? As the former master of the Bailey family, she naturally had the inheritance of the Bailey family. However, Bailey Fan's sudden question was very confusing. As Bailey Hong Zhuang's voice fell, a trace of sadness flashed in Bailey Fan's eyes. Could it be that his judgment was wrong? Connecting all the dots, he felt that Bailey Hong Zhuang was the most likely candidate. This was because Bailey Hong Zhuang had returned after so many years. This was a kind of fate. Most importantly, the inheritance of the Bailey family had been lost 1,000 years ago. She was the only one who could connect all the dots. Aside from Bailey Hong Zhuang, he could not think of any other possibility. Perhaps I've guessed wrongly. Bailey Fan sighed and did not continue speaking. Since Bailey Hong Zhuang was not the person he was looking for, he naturally would not reveal the family secrets. This was something that only the master of the Bailey family would know. Bailey Hong Zhuang stared suspiciously at Bailey Fan. She knew that Bailey Fan must have a secret, but he was unwilling to reveal it. His unwillingness to reveal it was related to the fact that she did not have the inheritance. Thinking of this, Bailey Hong Zhuang decided not to hide it any longer. In fact, she had returned to the Bailey family this time because she wanted to hand over the inheritance. Now that she could make up for the regret from 1,000 years ago, she was already very happy. Actually, I do have the inheritance of the Bailey family, Bailey Hongzhuang slowly said. Bailey Fan, who had already given up hope, was stunned when he heard this. His eyes flashed with a strong sense of surprise. What? You're right. I do have the inheritance of the Bailey family. Bailey Hongzhuang spoke again. Her voice was filled with certainty and seriousness. I'm just curious as to how the Bailey family found out about this. Hearing this, Bailey Fan's eyes shone brightly. Is this true? Of course it's true. That's great. Bailey Fan could not help but clap his hands together. His face was filled with joy. I knew it would be like this. After a moment, Bailey Fan finally explained, to be honest, the inheritance that Yunyan had obtained in the Divine Cloud's secret realm was left behind by the ancestors of the Bailey family. There was a recording crystal in it that only the master of the Bailey family can see. Bailey Hongzhuang raised an eyebrow and listened carefully to Bailey Fan's explanation. She felt that this matter was related to her. Otherwise, Bailey Fan would not have asked such questions. Chapter 52:38. How is this possible? Bailey Hongzhuang's face was filled with shock. She had thought of many possibilities, but she never thought that someone would be able to predict all of this. When I first heard this news, I also thought it was unbelievable. However, the ancestor was a prophet, so he had already predicted all of this. I believed in this very much, but I didn't know when this woman would come. That was until Yunyan told me about you. Not only did I find Bailey Jingyu's name in the genealogy, I also found your name. Therefore, I believe that all of this is not a coincidence. Bailey Fan's face was filled with joy. He believed in Bailey Hongzhuang. Even if Bailey Hongzhuang did not give him the inheritance, in reality, no matter how he looked at it, Bailey Hongzhuang had no reason to lie to him. If the D family wanted to attack the Bailey family, they were no match for them. Furthermore, based on the current situation, Bailey Hongzhuang was obviously very kind to them. I see. Bailey Hongzhuang immediately understood. A prophet was an extremely rare profession. Only those with special talents could have this ability. Furthermore, the ability to predict was too heaven-defying. Therefore, prophets usually did not live for very long. She never thought that a prophet would appear in the Bailey family. Furthermore, the prophet had predicted that she would come. It was truly shocking. Miss Hongzhuang, you may be the hope of our family's revival. Bailey Fan's eyes shone brightly. He believed that the prophecy would not be wrong. Bailey Hongzhuang did not refute Bailey Fan's words. The reason why the Bailey family was gradually declining was largely because of her. If possible, she also hoped that under her leadership, the Bailey family would become strong again. Only then would she feel less regret and guilt. Bailey Fan looked at Bailey Hongzhuang, whose expression had changed slightly, and pondered for a moment before hesitantly asking, Miss Hongzhuang, can you tell me what kind of inheritance you possess? Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. If I'm not wrong, a part of the family's cultivation method is missing. Back then, the cultivation method had always been with her. At that time, she was a rare genius in the family, and the inheritance was also in her hands. However, due to his death, his cultivation technique had disappeared along with him. Although the Bailey family was extremely powerful at that time, there weren't many cultivators who actually practiced the entire technique. However, any disciple who could cultivate was undoubtedly extremely powerful. It was because of them that the family had always been strong. As soon as he said this, Bailey Fan couldn't help but widen his eyes in shock. You? Could it be that you have a clan's cultivation method? Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. That's right, but our family's cultivation method has disappeared for many years. How did you get it? As the master of the Bailey family, Bailey Fan naturally knew that the real cultivation method had disappeared for many years. Hundreds of years ago, the master of the Bailey family still had the idea of finding the cultivation method. However, as time passed, everyone completely gave up. He never thought that one day he would be able to find the family's cultivation method. This was passed down from my ancestors. As for the situation in the past, I don't know. Chapter 52:39. After listening to Bailey Hongzhuang's explanation, Bai Li Fan did not think too much about it. From his point of view, Bailey Hongzhuang was only a junior. So many years had passed since this incident. As the head of the family, even he did not understand the situation, let alone Bailey Hongzhuang. However, as long as the cultivation technique was found, it would be great news. When Bailey Hongzhuang returned to her residence, Di Beichun and the others welcomed her. Hongzhuang, what did the head of the Bailey family talk to you about? Shangguan Ying asked with concern. Seeing the concern on everyone's faces, Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Nothing much. I just confirmed that my ancestor used to be a member of the Bailey family. After hearing this, other than Di Beichun and Di Xiaofeng who already knew about this, everyone else's faces were filled with astonishment. What a coincidence. Shangguan Ying's eyes widened. So, Hongzhuang, your ancestor used to be a member of the upper realm. How'd he end up in the lower realm? I don't know either. Bailey Hongzhuang shrugged. However, I'm still very happy to be able to acknowledge my ancestors. This is great. You and Yunyan are really sisters. Di Xiaofeng chuckled and looked at Di Beichun. Beichun, we brothers are really fated. They both liked women from the Bailey family. What kind of fate was this? Di Beichun smiled. Indeed. Hongzhuang, congratulations. Mo Yunyue's icy face also revealed a trace of a smile, but there was a complicated light in the depths of his eyes. According to his judgment, this matter was not as simple as it seemed. There must be other reasons. However, since Bailey Hongzhuang did not say anything, she must have her reasons. During lunch, Bai Li Fan invited all the elders, disciples of the family, and Bailey Hongzhuang to gather together and announce that he had something to announce. Regarding this, all the elders of the Bailey family felt that it was very strange. They did not know what the head of the family would announce at this time. However, when everyone heard the contents of Bai Li Fan's announcement, they were all dumbfounded. I announced that from today onwards, Bailey Hongzhuang will be the head of the Bailey family. Bai Li Fan's solemn face revealed a serious and solemn expression. His majestic voice was extremely loud and clearly into everyone's ears. Of the world of the Bailey family's family. Bailey Hongzhuang's view of the world, of course, Bailey, and of Bailey Hongzhuang, of course. What did Patriarch say? To Bailey Hongzhuang of the family of the family? How is this possible? Is the head of the family crazy? How could he make such a decision? Could it be that the head of the family decided to give the position of the head of the family to Bailey Hongzhuang in order to climb up to the Di family? Even if Bailey Hongzhuang is also surnamed Bailey, she is not a member of the Bailey family. For a moment, everyone was in an uproar. Incredulous gazes fell on Bai Li Fan and Bailey Hongzhuang. In their opinion, this was simply a big joke. Di Xiaofeng and the others also looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in astonishment. They knew that Bailey Hongzhuang was indeed a member of the Bailey family. However, why would Bai Li Fan suddenly decide to give the position of the head of the family to Bailey Hongzhuang? This did not make sense at all. Chapter 52:40. Choosing the next head of the family was definitely a serious matter. No matter what, Bai Li Fan would not joke about this matter. However, in just half a day, Bai Li Fan had made such a shocking result. How could they not be shocked? The head of the Bailey family is actually going to give the position of the head of the family to Hongzhuang. Isn't this too unbelievable? Di Xiaofeng looked at Di Beichun in astonishment. Previously, they did not hear this news from Bailey Hongzhuang. When Di Beichun first heard this news, a trace of shock flashed across his eyes. However, he quickly calmed down. When Hongzhuang mentioned this matter in the past, he knew that Hongzhuang had always felt guilty about this and wanted to find an opportunity to make up for it. In the past, she thought that the Bailey family had disappeared. Now that she had the opportunity to become the head of the Bailey family again, it would make up for her regret. After all, she used to be the head of the Bailey family. However, due to an accident, she disappeared along with the family's inheritance. Even though so many years had passed and many things had changed, this was still her home. Everyone here was her family. The head of the Bailey family must have his own thoughts. Di Baichun smiled faintly. Seeing Di Baichun's calm expression, a trace of surprise flashed across Di Xiaofeng's eyes. It seemed that his brother had already guessed it. Bailey Yunyan also did not dare to believe it first. However, when she recalled the recording crystal that the head of the family mentioned previously, she already had some guesses in her mind. Perhaps Bailey Hongzhuang was really the person that was mentioned in the recording crystal. She held the family's inheritance in her hands and carried the hope of the family to become stronger. It was because of this that the head of the family decided to give the position of the head of the family to her. If this was really the case, then she agreed. Moreover, she also liked Bailey Hongzhuang very much. Shangguan Yingying, Wen Ziren, Imo Yinjue, Bali Yin Che, and Linger all looked at each other. They had no idea what was going on. However, no matter how one looked at it, this did not seem to be a bad thing. Ziren, if Hongzhuang really becomes the head of the Bailey family, then Xiao Sou and the others won't have the right to laugh at Hongzhuang for coming from the underworld, right? When Ziren nodded slightly, a smile appearing between his brows. That's right, they've always said that Hongzhuang's status is not good enough for Baichun. But with this layer of status, this kind of saying is not justified. That's great. Shangguan Yingying's eyes sparkled. Previously, when everyone had brought up this point, even though Hongzhuang had appeared extremely calm, Shangguan Yingying knew that Hongzhuang would not feel good about it. This was like a soft spot that had been constantly poked at, but could not be refuted. However, with this layer of status, even if there was still a gap in the power of the two families, it would definitely be much smaller than before. Compared to Shangguan Yingying and the others who were overjoyed, the elders and disciples of the Bailey family could not accept this at all. They only thought that Bai Li Fan must have gone mad to make such an incomprehensible decision. Head of the family, we cannot accept this decision. The great elder was the first to step out. His elderly face was filled with intense dissatisfaction. How can the Bailey family hand over the position of the head of the family to someone else? Are you muddle-headed? As he was too angry, the great elder's words were not polite at all. Chapter 52-41. Bai Li Fan was not surprised by the elder's opposition. This situation was within his expectations. He knew that his decision was crazy, but he was sure that his judgment was correct. I've already made my decision, and I will not change it. Bai Li Fan's expression was serious and solemn. Elders, I will explain the specific reason to you later. Patriarch, did they force you to do this? The first elder's eyes were filled with worry and anger. He had always known the family head's character. If there was no reason, the family head would never do such a thing, no matter how he thought about it. He couldn't think of any other possibility other than this one. As soon as he said this, the Bailey family looked at Bailey Hongzhuang's group with unkind eyes. Young Master D, Miss Bailey, we have treated you as our honored guests. How can you bully us just because you have a strong family? That's right. Even if our clan strength is not a match for the D clan, we will definitely not give up our entire clan, just like that. The elders' attitudes changed almost instantly. They knew how much Bai Li Fan cared about the family. For Bai Li Fan to make such a decision, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others must have done something very overboard. Seeing this, Shangguan Yingying could not help but frown. Her face was filled with dissatisfaction. What nonsense are you talking about? When did we bully you? They couldn't accept being labeled with such a big label for no reason. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang turned to look at Shangguan Yingying. Leave this matter to family head Bailey. Since this was Bai Li Fan's decision, she believed that Bai Li Fan had the ability to solve it. Hearing this, Shangguan Yingying's eyes flashed with a trace of surprise. She immediately suppressed the dissatisfaction in her heart. At this moment, another figure walked into the hall. Seeing this person, Bailey Yunyan's eyes were filled with surprise and nervousness. Bailey Tianheng is here. Bailey Tianheng. Di Xiaofeng raised his eyebrows and asked silently. Bailey Tianheng is the son of the patriarch. Although the patriarch has yet to appoint a young master, everyone knows that the position of young master belongs to him. Previously, when Bailey Tianheng was training outside, he obtained quite a lot of opportunities. During this period of time, he has been in seclusion, so he did not make it to the immortal cloud mystic realm. However, from his aura, his strength has improved greatly. Bailey Union's heart was in a mess. She didn't want to see the conflict between the two sides because of this matter. In fact, even though she had roughly guessed the reason, she never thought that the master would have such great courage to make such a decision. I see. Di Xiaofeng and the others immediately understood. They had indeed never seen this person before. However, from the aura he exuded, his strength was indeed stronger than the Bailey family's disciple who had entered the immortal cloud's secret realm. Bailey Tianheng was not in a good mood to begin with. All along, the Bailey family had rarely obtained a place to enter the immortal cloud mystic realm. Even though they did not miss out on every alchemy competition, in reality, it was all about participating. Therefore, he had never taken this matter to heart. Chapter 5242. However, Bailey Tianheng was in the middle of his closed-door cultivation, and he had previously said that he could not be disturbed. Hence, even though Bai Li Fan felt that it was a pity to miss this opportunity, he did not disturb him. After all, if he made a mistake during this important period of cultivation, he would suffer from qi deviation. Hence, when Bailey Tianheng came out of his closed-door cultivation and heard the news, he almost blacked out and fainted. Because this matter was too depressing, Bailey Tianheng did not come out to meet anyone and continued his closed-door cultivation. As the person most likely to inherit the position of the master of the household, no matter what, his cultivation could not be caught up by others. Today, he was also cultivating but was suddenly disturbed by a hurried voice. Initially, he was extremely unhappy, but when he heard that his father wanted a hand over the position of the master of the household to an outsider, he could no longer remain calm. This was simply too unacceptable. The eyes of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others also fell on Bailey Tianheng's body. Bailey Yunyan's voice was not small, and they all heard it clearly. Wife, I'm afraid that Bailey Tianheng will not agree so easily. Di Beichen's lips curled into a devilish smile, and his calm face did not show any signs of worry. Naturally, I will settle my son's problem. Bailey Hongzhuang shrugged her shoulders. She was not determined to obtain the position of the master of the household. However, Bai Li Fan had always insisted on this because this was the news he had obtained from the recording crystal. Therefore, she didn't refuse. After all, it wasn't a bad thing to learn about the current situation of the 100 Lane clan through this matter. Tianheng, you're here. Seeing Bailey Tianheng's appearance, Bai Li Fan's stern face relaxed for a moment. Father, how could you make such a decision? Bailey Tianheng did not care about anything else and went straight to the point. This was simply infuriating. I naturally have my reasons for doing this. Master, Tianheng is your son. In the entire family, only he is qualified to become the young master. That's right. In our hearts, Tianheng is already the young master. You can't make such a foolish decision. If the position of the master of the household is really handed over to Bailey Hongzhuang, what will happen to Tianheng? Following Bailey Tianheng's appearance, the group of elders immediately found a breakthrough. Seeing so many elders supporting him, Bailey Tianheng's heart calmed down. He turned his head, and his gaze landed on Bailey Hongzhuang. Although he had never seen Bailey Hongzhuang before, he had a rough idea of her from the description of the servants. Hence, with just a glance, he could tell who was Bailey Hongzhuang, of course, of the Bailey Hongzhuang. Even though his heart, Bailey Tianheng of Bailey, of course, Bailey of the household. What a peerless of a beauty. Of a lotus flower, bloom, 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 Bailey, ye Bailey, 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 Bailey of Bailey. How could you make my father make such an unreasonable decision? Bailey Hongzhuang glanced at Bailey Tianheng indifferently. She did not seem to feel his anger at all. There was a stark contrast between the two. I did not do anything. This is your father's decision. That's impossible. Chapter 52:43. Tianheng, don't be rash. Bailey Fan stood out when he saw that everyone was pointing their spears at Bailey Hongzhuang. If anyone has any questions, ask me. Don't point your spears at Hongzhuang. Everyone's gaze changed when they heard the change in the way Bailey Fan addressed her. They couldn't understand when the relationship between the master and Bailey Hongzhuang had become so close. Father, are you confused? How can you hand a family over to an outsider? Bailey Tianheng felt that he was about to go crazy. His father was acting too strangely today. He didn't seem like the person he usually was. Bailey Hongzhuang is a member of my family. Following Bailey Fan's words, the originally noisy discussion hall fell silent for a moment. Everyone looked at Bailey Fan and Bailey Hongzhuang in disbelief. How did Bailey Hongzhuang become a member of their family? This was something they had never heard of before. The great elder and the second elder glanced at each other. Originally, they didn't understand why the patriarch would suddenly do such a thing. But after a while, they suddenly understood. Could it be Bailey Hongzhuang was actually the master's illegitimate daughter? Did she come back this time to acknowledge her ancestors? If this was really the case, then everything could be explained. After all, Bailey Hongzhuang was now the young madam of the D family. If she became a master of the Bailey family, it would be of great help to the family. It wasn't just the two elders. Bailey Tianheng and the rest of the young disciples had the same thought in their minds. Because, other than this reason, they couldn't think of any other reason. At that moment, Bailey Tianheng realized that everyone was looking at him with sympathy. This feeling was enough to make him die of shame and anger. Father, how could you do such a thing? Bailey Fan heaved a sigh of relief when he saw that everyone had finally quietened down. However, he didn't expect to hear Bailey Tianheng's bitter words. He was puzzled. Tianheng, Hongzhuang is really a member of my Bailey family. Master, what you did was really wrong. The great elder sighed. He didn't expect the master to do such a thing. What did I do wrong? Bailey Fan looked at everyone in confusion. The great elder saw that Bailey Fan still wanted to continue hiding it. He couldn't help but glance at him and Bailey Hongzhuang with a strange expression. After pondering for a moment, Bailey Fan suddenly understood what he meant, and his expression suddenly became incomparably strange. What nonsense are you all guessing? Bailey Fan was also angry. These guys actually thought of such a messy thing. Hongzhuang's ancestors are members of my family. However, for some reason, they ended up in the lower realm. Now, she has my family's long-lost cultivation method in her hands. Following Bailey Fan's words, everyone was stunned. A series of gasps could be heard. They were filled with shock and disbelief. Did I hear wrongly? Master said that Bailey Hongzhuang has the family's inheritance in her hands? I heard that our family's cultivation method was originally extremely powerful. However, it has been lost for many years. If it wasn't lost, our family would definitely be stronger than it is now. Chapter 52:44. Bailey Tianheng's expression suddenly froze. The original shame and pain turned into confusion in an instant. He wondered if he had heard wrongly. Bailey Hongzhuang was actually a member of the Bailey family, and it was not like what he had thought. The sudden change really made him unable to react. However, compared to his previous guess, this situation was undoubtedly much easier for him to accept. Shang Guanying and the others all looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in shock. It was not until this moment that they completely understood the real reason. Bailey Fan looked at the elders who collectively fell into a daze. He looked apologetically at Bailey Hongzhuang and the others and said, Hongzhuang, I'm afraid this matter needs to be discussed internally first. Why don't I? Bailey Hongzhuang immediately understood Bailey Fan's meaning. Presumably, Bailey Fan originally wanted to directly announce the result to everyone and then explain. However, because everyone's reaction was too intense, they did not even give him a chance to explain. Helplessly, he could only make such a decision. In that case, we'll leave first. Di Xiaofeng and the others naturally understood. Thinking that Bai Li Fan and the others actually had such exaggerated thoughts in their minds, they also thought that it was indeed necessary for Bai Li Fan to properly explain this matter to avoid unnecessary misunderstandings. It was not until they left the meeting hall that Shangguan Ying finally asked a bellyful of questions. Hongzhuang, what's going on? You actually have the inheritance of the Bailey family. Even if they already knew that Hongzhuang and the Bailey family were of the same origin, they never thought that she actually had the inheritance of the Bailey family in her hands. This was extremely amazing. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. Yes, this was passed down by my ancestors. No wonder you're so powerful. Shangguan Ying immediately understood. So you've been cultivating the inheritance of the upper realm all this time. Following Shangguan Ying's words, Xiren also came to a realization. Yes, I finally found the reason why you're so abnormal. Looking at the two of them, who looked as if they had discovered a new world, Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but chuckle. Although she did not cultivate the cultivation method of the Bailey family, the demon summoning scripture was obviously not an ordinary cultivation method. This was indeed the reason why her cultivation speed was faster. Hongzhuang, I see that Bailey Tianheng is extremely dissatisfied with this matter. Do you think that Bailey family's head can convince everyone? There was a trace of worry in Mo Yunjue's deep eyes. He had seen the situation clearly just now. Other than Bailey Fan, no one else supported Bailey Hongzhuang. Even if Bailey Hongzhuang's family inheritance, they would not. In fact, no matter from which point of view, this was the Bailey family. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. This will depend on Bailey family's ability. However, even if everyone opposes it, I don't care. The position of the family's head was forced upon me by Bailey family's head. I don't have any plans to obtain it. Now, it had already been 1,000 years. Even if they were still in the same family, it was not the same as before. If she was allowed to lead the Bailey family again, she would not refuse. However, if everyone was unwilling, she would not take it to heart. As long as the Bailey family's inheritance could be passed down, that would be the happiest thing for her. Chapter 52-45. From the very beginning, they had been most worried about Bailey Hongzhuang's emotions. Since she had thought things through, everyone was relieved. Regardless of the outcome, it did not matter. Compared to the calm and indifferent atmosphere of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others, the Bailey family's meeting hall was in full swing at the moment. Patriarch, what's going on? The great elder stared anxiously at Bai Li Fan. He now knew that there must be an extremely important reason for the master's actions. Hence, he was eager to know the real reason. It was not just the great elder. All the other elders and disciples of the Bailey family fell silent as they stared at Bai Li Fan, eager to hear his explanation. Looking at the anxious looks on everyone's faces, Bai Li Fan sighed and said, "We'll have to start from the inheritance that Yunyan had obtained in the Divine Cloud's secret realm." Inheritance? Bailey Tianheng was stunned. He had only just come out of his closed-door cultivation today and did not know that Bailey Yunyan had obtained the inheritance in the Divine Cloud's secret realm. Bailey Yunyan stood calmly on the spot, as if she had not noticed the complicated and curious gazes of the crowd. Then, Bailey Fan told him the whole story from beginning to end. Previously, he had not mentioned this matter, because he had not found the woman who could bring hope to the family as mentioned in the recording crystal. Once this news got out, no one knew if someone would come forward to impersonate her. However, now that he had confirmed that this person was Bailey Hongzhuang, there was no need for him to continue hiding it. What? How could such a thing have happened? The first elder's face was filled with shock. This situation was simply too unbelievable. Master, what you've said is true. Bailey Yunyan finally spoke. Furthermore, before we entered the Divine Cloud's secret realm, Hongzhuang had asked me to check the genealogy. This is definitely not a coincidence, nor was it purposely arranged. Bailey Tianheng, who was originally thinking of stopping his father's actions no matter what, fell into silence at this moment. If it was the old ancestors' prophecy, they indeed had no reason to refuse. Patriarch, have you confirmed this matter? The second elder's face was full of hesitation and worry. If it's wrong, it'll be terrible. I've already confirmed it. Bai Fan looked serious. Needless to say, I'm sure you can figure it out. Bailey Hongzhuang was originally the young mistress of the D family. After what happened in the Immortal Cloud secret realm, Beichen's status as the young master of the D family would not change. Do you think she needs to tell such a lie? As soon as he said this, the second elder immediately shut his mouth. Indeed, no matter how one looked at it, Bailey Hongzhuang had no reason to do so. Moreover, the family's lost cultivation method was really in her hands. Just this point alone was enough to prove a lot of things. Everyone looked at each other in dismay. This sudden result was really hard for them to accept. However, after understanding the real reason, they could not refute it. However, from now on, Bailey Hongzhuang would become their new patriarch. It was really hard for them to get used to it. Now, does anyone have any objections to my decision? Everyone fell silent. This was the old ancestors' prophecy. Who could say no? Chapter 5246. After everyone left, Bai Fan looked at Bailey Tianheng, who was left alone. Tianheng, I know it's hard for you to accept this. I've wronged you. Bai Fan's eyes were apologetic. Before this, he also believed that Bailey Tianheng would be the next young master. It was not only because he was his son, but also because he was outstanding in all aspects. No one would object to letting him succeed the position of patriarch. However, plans could not keep up with changes. No one expected such a thing to happen. Compared to the entire family's future, he could only choose to wrong his son. Bailey Tianheng's expression was complicated. Too many things had happened today. It was hard for him to accept. However, he was not an unreasonable person. He knew that his father must have considered many aspects before making such a decision. Father, I know your decision is not wrong. It's just that I need some time. Bailey Tianheng forced a smile. The psychological gap was too big. Even if he tried his best to look past it, he still felt that it was difficult to do so. At least, he still could not do it in a short period of time. Hearing Bailey Tianheng's words, Bai Fan felt even more guilty. If Bailey Tianheng showed a lot of dissatisfaction or lost his temper, he would feel better. However, seeing that his son was so sensible, his feelings were even more complicated. All along, Bailey Tianheng was the son he was proud of. He had never disappointed him. But now, he had disappointed Bailey Tianheng. Bailey Tianheng did not stay for long. Too many things had happened so suddenly. He needed to calm down. Bai Fan did not force him to stay. He believed that Bailey Tianheng would understand everything. Bailey Yunyan immediately informed Bailey Hongzhuang after the result was out. Hearing the result, everyone sighed in their hearts. Patriarch Bailey is really amazing. He actually convinced everyone. Xiren sighed. Won't Bailey Tianheng feel that it's unfair? According to his judgment, it would be hard for anyone to accept that the cooked duck flew away just like that. Moreover, judging from Bailey Tianheng's behavior earlier, he simply couldn't wait to chase them out. Actually, Tianheng has always been a very reasonable person. Today, he suddenly heard this news, so his behavior was a little extreme. But after he understood the real situation, he accepted it, but he must have felt uncomfortable in his heart. Bailey Yunyan explained with a smile. One must know that Bailey Tianheng had always been highly sought after in the family. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. This Bailey Tianheng actually didn't cause any trouble? No. Bailey Yunyan's voice was firm. Hongzhuang. After you spend more time with him, you will know that he is actually a very good person. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. A strange look flashed in her eyes, but her face revealed a smile like a spring breeze. That's good. TSK, I didn't expect that there would be 3 young lords in our group. That's really amazing. Xiren sized up Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 2. In the blink of an eye, Bailey Hongzhuang had also become the patriarch. Yes, only the 3 of us are like duckweeds without anyone to rely on. Shangguan Yingying sighed. You husband and wife don't drag me into this. Mo Yunjue quietly said. You're tuning into the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.